We're very, very happy to have in studio with us. His name is Mike Carter, and he is a lawyer. Now, everything that you have ever wanted to know about DUI, I was fascinated by this because there's a lot you need to know.
It's apparently.
Especially you, Eric Johnson. There's a lot you need to know.
I am so excited about this segment, I can't even tell you.
And Mike Carter set up in probably all of the nation, definitely the Midwest, probably all the nation.
Yeah.
Biggest, baddest website with information and everything you'd need to know about
it's like
DUI.
it's almost like a porn site. It's called DidYouBlow.com.
It's almost like one,
but it's not.
Not exactly.
It's ish, but no. It's a legal website.
Is that not the best though legal website ever?
DidYouBlow.com, and I'm reading through it right now, and it's got a lot of information that's on this thing, and it is put together well.
Mike, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. And you live out this way, so you know the battles that we all face out here in the Westplex.
Yeah, for sure. I'm on 70 west of the Missouri all the time. No doubt.
Did you have trouble with this deal? They're saying 70 East is closed right past Lake St. Louis Boulevard?
No. I saw I was coming west, obviously, but I did see it, and I failed to tell you about it when I got here. But luckily, one of your listeners texted it to you.
What was going on? Was it just an accident, or?
Yes, I saw it pretty clearly. There's a Dodge Ram, about a 2008, probably pretty smashed up on the left-hand side.
This has been the week of wrecks, man.
Did anybody drive this week?
Are they drinking? Because if they are, you got a lot of clients. Because I saw a semi barbecue the other day. It was on fire over by Mid Rivers. Did you see that?
No, I heard about it, but no, I didn't know if there's any alcohol involved.
Well, you'd like to think not at this time of morning. However,
right.
I would think that these days you have more wrecks because of texting than you do alcohol. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, and St. Charles City just passed a new ordinance, as you probably know about, against texting and driving. It's a very hard law to enforce because dialing a phone looks suspiciously just like texting when you're about 20 feet away.
Or a map. I was pulled over and harassed by a Minnesota State trooper before I moved back to St. Louis because he said, "Oh, you were texting." Yeah. And from what I understand, I asked an officer in this area why he was badgering so much, and he said, well, he has to get you to admit it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And he was ticked. I really wasn't texting. I was looking at my map because I was going to a place in Minnesota. I wasn't from that area that I'd never been before, so I'm on my Google map.
Same difference.
And I even showed him the phone. I said, dude, look, I'm looking at the map, because it's telling me an interstate.
But if your head is buried in your steering wheel column, it doesn't matter if you're texting or...
Well, yeah, but
you're looking at a Garmin map. It doesn't matter.
The law is texting, right? It's not mapping.
And they have a new technology, supposedly, where they're going to have, similar to a radar gun, it can differentiate between a text emitting signal from your phone or within your car, as opposed to something that's screaming out for an internet connection. Yeah. So,
wow. Right. Oh, man. You got to be kidding.
Orwellian Big Brother.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
I don't like that at all. Have you heard about the iPhone 6? Some of the things that have been in the news. First of all, now some people are claiming that when you put it in your pocket.
You haven't seen the pictures yet?
What pictures?
There's pictures, and it's right. They have pictures of the iPhone 6.
About the iPhone bending because your jeans are too tight.
It bends in your pocket.
Well, you people have to stop wearing these damn skinny jeans.
Yeah.
I never liked those anyway.
And my apologies to Mike Carter, who is wearing skinny jeans today.
They look great. They look great on you.
Always get trouble in court for them, but they look so good.
Bedazzled skinny jeans.
He does have one of the most attractive law firms I've ever seen in my life. You got some good-looking people working over there.
Oh.
Eric.
I'm just saying, I'm looking at him right here.
That's very smart, though. Hire attractive people when you walk through the door.
It's like Law and Order. They're all supermodels.
Of course. It is. Do you do the hiring personally?
No, actually, the first two I did, but since then, the operations manager, who was kind of one of the first people there, she brings them in and interviews them. I eventually do play part of the process, but most of it's been done by her.
So yesterday we got into this debate, and we're like, we got to ask Mike Carter about this. Okay, there's a legal limit in Missouri. What is that legal limit?
0.08.
0.08. If I have a beer over here at Jim and Deb's Lakeside Pub, one beer, one Blue Moon, and I get in the vehicle and I'm well under that 0.08, can I still be arrested or ticketed?
Can't you get like a DUI, driving under the influence?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk. You'll hear defense attorneys will say that, there's nothing wrong with having a beer or two at Red Lobster and then heading home and being under the .08 because there's a specific statute about the .08, and that's kind of a prima facie proof that you are driving under the influence. But really, if an officer believes that you've manifest all the problems that are associated with being able to conduct a big 2,000 or 4,000 pound piece of machinery, and he believes or she believes you're under the influence, the amount, as I understand it, which I think is right, if you're a .07 or .06, yet you can't walk a line and you shouldn't be driving a car, you can still get a DWI. They just have to prove it 1960s style, right? They don't have, well, they can still bring in the proof that you're under, but probably in this law and order CSI environment that we've created the past 20 years with TV shows, juries probably want to hear that number. So it's very hard to prove once you get in front of them if you don't have a .08. But if you're a 60-pound girl or 80-pound or something, if those exist, and you can't walk a line because you had 2 beers, you're going to go to jail.
So I always wonder that, like coming home from the because I play in bands like almost every weekend. So I'm always driving down the highway, and there's always cops pulling people over. And they're still doing the testing where they touch the nose or you have to like walk the line or whatever. Why don't they just make you blow in the apparatus?
That mobile little blower thingy.
And say, look, you're drunk. Bam.
The PBT, the portable breath test, is only used to help the officer bring together a lot of observations. So you can't walk, you can't touch your nose, your ABCs, those kinds of things. And then the PBT helps them to kind of verify that, but they can't really bring that into court. It's not a reliable enough piece of machinery.
That's admissible in court. Throw it out. Doesn't even matter.
Well, it can be part of what the officer says made him believe the arrest was good, probable cause in the first place, but it can't be the determining factor of guilt or innocence.
Well, wait a minute.
In front of the jury.
That doesn't make any sense because I'll say this: if you don't blow, if you got a year off,
revocation.
Hang on.
Well, PBT is separate from the machine that you end up blowing in,
and that's at the police station,
or in a bat van. They're at the DWI checkpoint.
Oh, those checkpoints. That's a whole different thing altogether, man.
Oh yeah, the that they do on weekends, a lot of, or holidays,
or even they just had one on Mid Rivers Mall, I think, on a Wednesday night. It depends on.
Really,
they're supposed to do some observations and have a plan in place when they decide to implement one of those per a United States Supreme Court case, and if they implement them in areas that are problems and concerns, is when it makes the most sense.
Yeah,
right.
Mid Rivers, that's a pretty good location.
If you have a question that you've always wanted to ask, something you want to know, because we've got, I believe, the foremost expert on this in studio with us right now. 636-695-2915 is our phone line, studio line. 636-695-2915. Or you can text us at 805-768-4737. That's 805-76-VIPER. So it really is, there's not a definitive, if you're under .08, you can't be arrested for it. If you're over, I mean, it's up to the officer, really.
You're right. Officer's observations, a reasonably and prudently trained officer, I think, can make those determinations. If you envision the 1960s or 70s or even early 80s before we had breath.
Barney Fife.
Yeah, there were still DWIs. If they could prove it up in a court of law, you could get accused of it. There were no breath results.
So I always kind of, because again, and DC's right, you have 2 or 3 beers and you're feeling it. I always kind of do that test where, like, I put one foot in front of the other, see how coordinated I am, and I go, I can drive this. I'm cool. I feel cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same thing the cop's going to do, right? So if the cop pulls you over and so you've had 3 or 4 drinks and the cop pulls you over and you roll down the window, what should I do? Let's start there.
Well, you're talking about if you suspect you might have done. You might be there at the threshold of .08.
Let's say you're on the border. You don't know for sure, but you don't think you've messed up, but you probably are.
One of the things I was taught, outside of the lawyer's scope by my dad at an early age was that, cops are your friends. They pull babies out of wells. They help, women survive, get out of rape situations. We need police officers to help us. But in the end, you should really probably never talk to one. So,
I'll see you at Christmas dinner, but not right now.
Right. So because of what he said earlier is that he's getting pulled over for a texting situation, and the officer's grilling him about what were you doing, how were you doing it, and the whole reason is to try to elicit be my friend, answer my questions, and maybe you'll get out of this. Well, they're trained to become your friend or threaten you with going to jail that night if you don't answer them with what they need to hear in order to make you guilty. Yeah. A real good common occurrence is a like leaving the scene of an accident in a parking lot. I get women, 38 years old who call and say, I got a little fender bender and the cops want me to come down to the station and fill out a report and a written statement. I'll say, well, no, go down there and tell them that you weren't really involved or you don't know what happened, but you're willing to interact with them or do whatever they need. And I said, they're going to put you in a 20-hour hold situation, potentially to make you write something down or talk to them. If you can be brave enough and sit in a concrete room with a metal bench for 20 hours, they'll let you go, and then we'll deal with the rest later. And usually they call me about 2.5 hours later and say, I went down there. It was great. It worked out. I just told them I backed into somebody, and they said I'd be okay. And I said, well, you'll get your tickets in about 3 weeks.
That sucks.
Right.
They just can't do it. I mean, the pressure's too intense,
Well, yeah, this guy, I didn't finish the rest of the story, but so when he pulled me over and he said, I think you were texting, and he wants me to say it, he's like, you were texting, weren't you? And I said, well, no, officer, I wasn't. I was looking at my Google map. He's like, no, I saw it. You were texting. I'm like, no, I can show you. And
but no, you just say, I could see how you would think that because I need to type in the address. And
he got mad, and he literally held me there for about 45 minutes. I was with my daughter, who at the time was like 9 years old. He pulls her out of the car and takes her off by herself. I told him, I said, I have a problem with that.
Absolutely.
I have a problem with that.
Probably should not be doing that.
Exactly. And he's trying to ask her, has Daddy been drinking and just all this stuff? Like, gotta be kidding. Then another officer arrives after about 20, 30 minutes or so, and he says, well, can we do a search of your car? And I said, yeah. Fine, whatever. I probably shouldn't have said yeah, but I did because I wasn't hiding anything. Held me there for, a good 30 minutes just because he was pissed that I wouldn't say that I was texting.
Right. Yeah. And I can see why it'd be driving you to do that because it is so hard to prove. Everyone knows they're virtually unenforceable. The state law right now under 21.
Yeah.
And then also the local ordinances that they're passing really across the country.
So what happens explain the SR22 thing to me. You see the commercials all the time.
Oh my gosh, it sucks.
What does that mean? It's
SR22.
I mean, at its barest, it's a proof to the DOR, who oversees our licensing, director of revenue, that you've got insurance in place as you're driving dangerously across the state because you've been involved in some situation that the licensing bureau has determined makes you a higher threat than the rest of the community, right? So sometimes you have to have one on file for a year or two. Sometimes for as long as you're driving, if you're on a special limited driving permit because you were on a 10-year revocation or a 5-year revocation, when you come off of that through the DWI court or through some other oversight, you'll have to have an SR22 on file the entire time while you're at the same time you're blowing into your car's machine every time you get in.
The car's machine. That's the other thing.
Man, that sucks. I know a guy.
It blows, actually.
It suck. I know a guy that has to do that before he's got a Cadillac Escalade and it's hooked right on there. And one night he was going to let me borrow his Escalade. We were out somewhere, and he's like, "Oh, I guess I can't because I gotta blow into this thing before." I mean that does blow.
Yeah. It kind of stifles a first date too.
How many DUIs do you have to have though before that happens?
One. Because I know somebody that had one DWI and they had to have that device in there.
What state were you in here?
Missouri, yeah.
Yeah, there's a way in Missouri when you first get a first DWI, if you want to drive faster than normal, you can get one right away and you can get in your car and start driving instead of taking some of the instant ramifications that do happen. But typically, your first time DWI, you're not seeing a device in the car. But on a second or a third or a fourth or even on a refusal many times, you're going to be stuck with having something like that in your car for 6 months.
Here's a question. So your first blow, and how did...
I hope somebody just turned the radio on right now.
Right. Well, I'm sorry.
And Eric Johnson's asking about your first blow.
Yeah, your first blow, and then you meet up with an attorney like yourself. How do you guys get that broken down to like a faulty muffler or something like that?
You have to be prepared. I mean, the first talk off really is that if you want to hire an attorney for a very limited or small amount, and they'll walk you through what a lot of the area offers sometimes. It's not just 100% assumed, but many times a 2-year probation with SATOP, Substance Abuse Traffic Offenders Program, 40 hours community service, a victims impact panel where people with half an arm or a missing child or something come in to give you the impact of what these things can do.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to just take that, we tell people that you're into a year and a half time commitment because we'll need to do depositions of the officers. We'll need to go back and forth with the police report itself, get your narrative. there's a lot of things that need to be done. Maybe there's motions to suppress the evidence because of the way that it was elicited from you illegally or legally. So if you're prepared to spend, $2,500 to $20,000, depending on how far it is that you go as far as digging into all of the nuances.
Yeah.
It could take a while, and then you can end up, like you said, the prosecutor gets in a weakened position. They're paid to win. If they know they can't, they might drop it down to careless and imprudent or something like that.
Right.
We had felonies dismissed last year, about 8 months ago, based on some technicalities because of the way they're supposed to prove up your priors. If you had one in Maryland Heights and another one in Town and Country, and when you pled to those, you didn't have an attorney, let's say. Well, that doesn't count then to enhance the third one that you got later, so it can really only be a misdemeanor. That
really?
Kind of thing. Right. Wow. So there's a lot of different aspects. No question.
So let's just say that you are a weed smoker, and you take a one-hit wake and bake, and you're on the way to work, and you get pulled over. Is that considered a DUI?
Right. Typically, you're driving under the influence of drugs at that point, yes.
How do they prove that? Because I can see alcohol, but they don't have a THC.
They do have, they break it down through the lab, and it shows that you had THC in your system. The problem is, as you're probably picking up on, is the amount and what it was doing to you at the time.
I had a poppy seed muffin
for a while. Right.
That has happened before.
It's officers' observations, and they could prove it up. And there's a lot. It seems like sometimes there's a little more sensitivity to marijuana from the jury than there is alcohol, believe it or not.
Here's a text from the 636. I would like to ask Mike. I had knee surgery and have had knee problems for a couple of months now, and I was harassed by an officer in O'Fallon, and we hear that a lot, by the way. Is that a tough department? That O'Fallon Police Department?
I live in O'Fallon. I guess, to be politically correct, I should be careful, but I haven't heard.
Not here.
I haven't heard a lot about O'Fallon. They seem to have their act together. Their court system specifically really handles all their business, on a straight and narrow.
From St. Charles County.
Yeah, right? No doubt. Yeah, O'Fallon specifically. I do hear a lot of felonies are generated out of O'Fallon, which you can't get a felony at the city level. That's just an ordinance violation. But their officers are known to generate felony charges through Lomar's office, which is the St. Charles County state. So they're pretty strict, high knowledge officer.
Really?
No chance.
Okay. This person said they were harassed because they had Vicodin in their automobile and had taken, I guess, Vicodin that morning. And this officer was harassing and wants to know, they want to know if that, I don't know if they got ticketed or not. They don't really say in the text message, but can you be, this is a prescription that you're given. What's the deal with that?
Well, you'll see especially in Lomar's office, some of the assistant prosecutors, the defendant will say, look, I'm on Ambien or I take Vicodin, and they'll usually turn that around on you. You got to be kind of careful, and they'll say, well, look, what does your prescription say? Not to operate heavy machinery? I think a car is heavy machinery. They'll turn it around.
That seems weird to me, because what if you have a back surgery and you have to get to work?
You got to go to work.
And I've had that situation before where I've had back problems and that Vicodin or whatever was the only thing that helped. So, is it illegal? And if it is, why don't they let that be known?
Well, and I'm curious what you would say then to that prosecutor that's trying to argue that.
Well, what we say is that, when a jury hears 80% of which are on their own medications, that you're bringing them in for a DUI.
Exactly.
But, because they're on Vicodin, they get to work, they may not have a really strong statements about it or a case. But like you said earlier, Eric, that if you put your foot in front of the other and you kind of give yourself a test before you get in the car, which is not recommended. But if you're on Vicodin and you try to put your foot in front of the other and you fall, maybe don't get in the car type of thing. If you're exhibiting those things that make it where people wouldn't want you driving next to them, even if you got a prescription for it, you might want to think 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Don't you think some of those field sobriety tests, though, are kind of, jaded, that they make you fail automatically? Like, who can say the alphabet backwards? Stuff like that.
I can't.
It's pretty. You don't have to. Well, that's not actually.
With the eye following my finger, with the eye following my pen, tipping my pen with your eyes.
What do they do?
Of course, they can say your eyes are bouncing or whatever. You can't prove that they're not.
With the alphabet, what do they do?
The alphabet's not really sanctioned by NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. All the other tests you alluded to are horizontal gaze nystagmus. That's the pin in the eyes. The walk and turn test on a line and coming back, and then the one leg stand.
Right. The one leg standing.
Right. Bringing those all together, they're all in the 60 to 80% realm of accuracy if they're implemented correctly. But when you bring them all together, they end up in the upper 80s as far as the ability to analyze somebody. The problem is very few officers know how to implement them.
Yeah, it's their judgment against yours, so you're never going to win.
Well, most of the time they're looking to make it clear to themselves that what they believe is going on is actually going on. They're not usually doing them to exonerate you or get you off. They're just looking to get more evidence that really you're just what they kind of hope that you are at that time.
Right, exactly. In fact, here's somebody that texted from the 314 who said that his dad always told him, if you're ever in that situation, and he's curious what attorney Mike Carter would say from DidYouBlow.com, ever in that situation, you should put both hands on the steering wheel. When the officer comes up to your car, look straight forward, don't even look at him, and put your license between your fingers and just hand it to him without looking at him.
That's curious. I just saw the other day that some officers it's catching on that many people, when they get pulled over, they're just cracking their window and holding their license right through the edge.
And not looking.
Some officers get mad about that. A guy in Kansas City just got shocked nearly to death because he was not being compliant. There's actually a ordinance in a lot of cities, failure to comply, right?
How are you not being compliant? You're giving them the license.
I know, but they want to smell the inside of the car.
And they want to look at your eyes.
Right.
It smells like old socks. What else do you need to know?
Why do they want to look at your eyes so bad?
Well, that's a good indicator, right?
Yeah, it's not always. Sometimes a late night at work or something does that as well.
Does it have anything to do with your pupils?
Not really.
Okay.
But back to your callers or your texters' point is that, yes, I think I would recommend, and I've always heard at many, many seminars and things, put your hands at 10 and 2 on the wheel.
Yep.
Ask before you do anything. Do you want me to get in my glove box and get my insurance? I'm going to reach over there and do that. Turn on your dome light before they do get there. Be as respectful as you can. You don't usually have to answer, where are you going and that. But the United States Supreme Court has said you have to tell them your name.
I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to answer where I've been. Where are you going? What are you up to tonight?
You
if
can
you don't
politely
answer that,
say,
really?
I think that's my personal business.
Wow.
There's a guy who's got a video on YouTube who got arrested in St. George a couple years ago. He did all the right things, and I think he ended up, the officer got fired, and the department's actually shut down now, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. Where's the...
But they want to get you talking, and that's not smart, right?
Yeah, you just proved that, right? Exactly. They're trying to get you to pretty much
admit something.
Yeah, commit to.
Right, and they're allowed to do that. They can do an investigatory portion of the stop before you're Mirandized. They can
Mirandized. You have the right to remain silent.
You have been Mirandized.
Right. But before that, they can do investigation, especially to the extent that you'll cooperate with them. If you're not under arrest, right, you just talk them with them. So, that's definitely, they're trained to do that.
What is the time of the night that they're most on the look? I mean, if you're coming back from a club at 1 o'clock, are they looking for it more at those hours, or is it 24 hours across the board? They're looking for that stuff anyway.
From my experience, the time of night just in and of itself is enough to send a signal to the court or the judge or the jury that, something's...
You've been out.
That's why I go to happy hour.
Right,
but it's not necessarily the case. And cities have this precarious balance where they can't just camp outside of different bars throughout a town.
To me. They were sitting right outside of Ethel's as I pull out and the cop starts following me. That's entrapment,
isn't
it?
No, not really.
Damn it.
They can use common sense.
It seems like it would be.
Yeah.
But if you start drilling a business that everybody appreciates and has their city council lunches at and stuff, and you're putting it out of business, it's not good practice. But and sometimes I think more often than not, you'll see those kind of stops outside of an Ethel's or a well-established community business. Where they put your car to the side and have your girlfriend or boyfriend come pick you up.
Right.
Type of thing.
Exactly. Okay, the best commercials, and I don't usually highlight commercials, but without a doubt, the best commercials I think out there right now on the radio belong to this man right here, Mike Carter, and his website, DidYouBlow.com. Was this your idea?
My brother runs a group called Hempnotics. He's been around for going on 15 or so years. He's always been really creative.
Hempnotics?
Hempnotics.
Right.
Clever.
Like hemp?
Yeah, like hemp.
Like the hemp?
Yes.
Like they make clothes out of?
And, that was the primary focus of the group. They all wear very fine threads.
Made out of hemp.
Yeah.
The duck.
But we're talking about, getting on the radio. I taught marketing for a decade and a half at the University of Missouri in Mizzou, Columbia, and then also here in St. Louis when I came back. And, jingles work. There's no doubt about it.
Well, this sticks in your head, and I apologize up front because you're going to have this stuck in your head all day. What you're about to hear will be stuck in your head all day.
Choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
At the bar chilling, too bad, had to close. First question from the lawyer is, did you blow? Had it back from the game, driving safe and slow. First question from the lawyer is,
did you blow?
DidYouBlow.com. Go to DidYouBlow.com. Went to the work party and you wish you wouldn't have drove. First question from the lawyer is, did you blow? All day on the water, having fun in the boat. First question from the lawyer is, did you blow?
Know why I pulled you over? No. Have you been drinking? Step out of the car, please.
It's a big celebration at the casino. First question from the lawyer is, did you blow? Just got married, cans dragging down the road. First question from the lawyer is, did you blow? DidYouBlow.com. Go to DidYouBlow.com. 895-4040. 895-4040. 895-4040.
Wow.
That's a good commercial.
That's a great commercial.
I don't care who you are. That's a good commercial.
Yeah, he worked pretty hard on it.
Was that Nelly?
No.
This kind of sounds like him. By the way, Texter said you guys never answered the question. You didn't let Mike answer the question about the whole blowing thing. And is it true that your license is taken away for a year if you don't blow?
It's kind of true. The intent of the law is specifically written as that you're revoked for a year. But you can get a LDP, limited driving privilege, after the first 90 days. And then the SR22 Eric was talking about will ride you out on a limited driving privilege to school and church and work for the remaining 9 months. But you can also fight those. You don't just hands down lose every time. The officer has to give you 15 minutes to call an attorney. They have to have a reasonable suspicion to have asked you in the first place to blow. And if they don't have all the requisite factors together to having asked you in the first place, they can fail. And so you can just keep your license. But it's a hard road to hoe, no doubt.
Hey, you're on with Mike Carter. What question did you have?
DC, it's Joe. I got a question if he's heard about this at all. That unmarked squad cars and police officers that are not dressed out in uniform are heading to these bars and putting different colored, round, circled stickers on your tires to let them know how long you've been at that bar.
Whoa.
Wow.
Really? You've heard that? Baba Booey's shaking his head as well.
I know for a fact in St. Charles they mark your tires with a piece of chalk.
Are you serious?
What?
Yeah, to see if the cars move. Because they don't have
I don't know
parking
why they
meters.
do that, but
I have never heard this.
They don't.
Ever.
That is scary.
They don't have
What
parking meters.
kind of legal action can happen out of that? I mean, can you do something about it personally with an attorney, or are you basically just screwed?
There's a couple thoughts I have. One, the parking chalk thing down. We don't have parking meters in St. Charles, so they mark the tires, and then if you're still there in an hour or two, that's the way they just keep track of it.
Okay.
But the Supreme Court ruled about 2 or 3 years ago that the FBI, who was putting GPS devices on alleged criminals' cars and following their whereabouts over a 3-month period, in the aggregate, they thought that was an unreasonable search, bringing that information together, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to have that. They need to get a warrant to track you for that long. But just chalking your car or sticker in the tire the night that you're at a bar, I mean, basically you're in the public domain, you're parked there. I guess you are on a private lot depending on where you're parked, but I wouldn't think they're going to have much issue, the court, with marking your tire to see how long you're there. It might be a little more precarious if you're in the private parking lot, because, for instance, at Electric Cowboy, we've got a case where an officer pulled somebody over for running a stop sign in the parking lot of Electric Cowboy. Well, St. Peter's ordinance specifically says it doesn't apply to private lots. So the traffic laws, you can run a stop sign in the parking lot and it's not probable cause for a stop from the officer because it's not against the law.
Right.
So it depends on what's happening.
stop sign is just a suggestion.
Well, in a private parking lot. I've thought a lot about that since this case, because I've always stopped there. I'm thinking, well, I'll just run them.
Yeah.
See, but the whole point of driving a car, it's not a right, it's a privilege. Is that still kind of that's the sentiment? I mean, so, you know, the cops can kind of do what they want. They're the ones that are going to enforce keeping people safe, right?
That's a very good point. I was going to avoid it, but Ferguson has been a major impact on DWIs and traffic law the past 6-7 weeks. There's been about a 50% reduction in the issuing of citations by officers from across the metro area. One, I don't know if it's because the resources have been committed to Ferguson and the cops just aren't on the streets, or really they just don't want to be issuing this in this accusatory climate where they're driving revenue with tickets and DWIs or whatever. They don't want to be accused of it, but we've seen a massive decline again in the last month or two with the issuance of these tickets, and that goes to your point, is that the discretion of the officer is so crucial. They do, you know, they're the front line, they're the gatekeeper. You know, your license, your privilege, your rights, and I think we've seen a lessening, or let's say a thickening of that membrane right now, where they're not crossing that line as much the past 6-7 weeks as they normally would just hand out that ticket. Don't put your license in jeopardy. So I don't know, you know, if that'll last or if I'm even right about why that's happening. But we know for a fact.
And I know, you know, you could say, "Wow, man, this is just a money grab from the cops." It's not. When you talk to a cop and they go, "You know how many accidents I've been on where I've seen decapitations and kids dead?"
Right.
These guys are pretty damn passionate about trying to save.
We're not advocating with Mike. Drinking and driving. I mean, it's a bad idea.
No way.
Every time. But it does happen. It does happen. And, you know, that's what you're there for. And there are times, I think, didn't you go through this yourself several years ago? And it kind of, I don't want to say, you know, led you in, but I would think since you had personal experience with it, that would make a huge difference.
Right. That was definitely why we steered into the environment and gotten a lot more expert driven about it. I was the judge in Wentzville, just right out here across the highway from us where we're sitting. And 2009 got pulled over. Had no issues. You know, I did all the things my dad taught me. I don't talk to police officers and these kind of things. I did not tell him. That actually, in a way, if you want to learn from my experience, I think got me in a little more trouble than I may have gotten into. It's hard to rewind and play it back, but he was a trooper. He didn't like that I wouldn't get out of my car and come sit in his car. He doesn't really have the right to ask me to do that. And
he doesn't.
No, he should not. Going back into their car can be a dangerous thing, especially if you're a girl. 16-year-old girl says, "Come back to my car."
That was my point with my daughter. I had a problem with.
Right,
you're not going to take her.
Yeah, we don't really trust those situations. Now they can do some things to get you out of the car and do the test if you agree, but ultimately, I was found innocent by a jury in about 9 minutes. All the things I thought and knew would occur, but it still was. I was on 5, 4, 2. You know, your radio station probably.
Sorry about that.
It wasn't a fun thing, and it's neat, I think, if you hire an attorney who knows the pressures. You know, I had to tell my wife. My kids were one of my kids was in high school at the time, and grandparents and everybody who think that, you know, you might actually, you know, have a head on your shoulders, and you start having those 3 letters magically dancing around your name, DWI. I think I have a good, compassionate, empathetic outlook on what people are going through.
So is there I'm assuming you've been to a few Super Bowl games in your day, and you've probably gone to a few celebrations. Do you drink at all right now?
No, I don't. I stopped.
Okay.
Not really related to that in any way. I just, my great-grandfather, when he was 42, he died when he was 101. He stopped all of those vices and fun things, and I decided to give it a try. I didn't really quit or anything. I just severely cut back.
Yeah.
One day, if I have a beer again or anything, nobody's going to hit me on the head and say I made a bad decision that day. I just kind of slowed down.
Wow. Okay. So I was going to ask the question: do you? When do you know? Here's the question, I guess. When do you know when to get in the car, and when do you know when to not get in the car? Because everybody goes to that Red Lobster, or they go to the Super Bowl party, and
man, it's so subjective. Though.
It is. I mean, again, I don't know how you test for it. It's just I feel okay. I'm cool, I think, and.
Again, like you alluded to earlier, Red Lobster is a great example. You have a beer and a half or a Blue Moon and a half there with your yellow bread and salad or whatever.
Sounds good already.
Yeah, I don't know what that bread's called, but it is great.
You know, now they're talking about reducing the amount of breadsticks they give you at the OG,
and that would make you drunker, right?
Well,
because more drunkest,
right? More beer, less bread.
Yeah,
because it's killing them financially. They're claiming. So, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. A lot of attorneys I've heard will say, you know, it's not against the law to have a beer or two and drive home. And that is true to some extent. It's not against the written statute 577.030 or whatever it is. The .08 is the threshold. But if an officer believes that you're under the influence and you shouldn't be driving a car, you could theoretically still get a DWI. So I don't think there's any test you can give yourself. But typically, I wouldn't want to call it attorney advice, but you have a beer and a half, and you're 220 pounds at Red Lobster and you had a full dinner, you're probably going to make it home.
Have you ever seen a person that had a blood alcohol of just way over .008, and you're like, man, that guy is sober as hell. Have you ever seen something like that? Where
I've seen that.
He's just having a normal guy. Hey, what's up?
I know a guy that actually becomes. This is terrible. It's the most. It's not politically correct. It's horrible. But he's a better driver when he's drinking.
Yeah, have you ever?
He's a terrible driver. I won't ride with him when he's sober. He's awful on the roads.
I know people who say they play pool better after a couple beers. A little more steady hand, that kind of thing. Or at least they think they do.
Here's what I did one time is I had a lot to drink, and so what I did was I just in the parking lot I just reclined my seat and laid back, had my keys in the ignition, and the cop came up and knocked on my window, and I was passed out. And he said, yeah, do you know that because your keys were in the ignition, you have intent to drive at that point? I said, I'm here just waiting for my buzz to
I'm
go
here
away.
just wasted.
I'm here waiting for my buzz.
Get out of my way. I'm trying to drive.
No, I was chilling out. I was looking to drive.
I'm just wasted and I'm about to go home.
I'm just wasted, dude. Leave me alone, man. Good morning. It's the Viper. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. You got a question for Mike Carter about DUIs or whatever? You're on.
Well, no, I just wanted to comment that I don't drink, but when I was younger, I used to go to the bar just to shoot pool.
Yeah.
I would go there and drink coffee and shoot pool.
What? No, bull crap. You did not.
Yes, I did too.
Okay.
Yes, I did. And
That's what you told your
when
wife.
I would leave, I'd see police in different places when I left, and I'd just look at them and shake my head. They're just waiting for somebody to stagger out of the bar and get in the car.
Well, I tell you what, if I was a cop, so would I.
You would?
Hell yeah,
Well,
man.
I would too, but I just laugh because I don't drink, and I just go shoot pool.
Because think about it. This cop might have a daughter or a son or a wife that he's trying to protect, and some guy comes out of a bar completely lit.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you know what? I hope that guy isn't. He better not get in that car. He better not. He's getting in that car. Oh my God, that guy's getting in that car. And then you pull him over.
I used to say I would turn my mother in if she was drinking and driving.
Yeah, that's right.
I would. I'd turn anybody in. It doesn't matter. You should never drink and drive.
Well, I'm sure, Mike, there's no law saying they can't sit outside the bar watching.
Yeah, but it's
for people?
entrapment to me.
No, I don't.
Well,
in general, there's no problem. They do it all the time. Like I said, usually it's a political balance more so than any rights that are violated.
Talking about entrapment, let's talk about the what are those? The checkpoints.
Yeah.
Those
Sobriety
checkpoints are crazy.
And you said now they're doing them on weeknights instead of the typical holiday weekend.
It depends if they get grants, typically federal grants, and then they have to implement and use that money in a focused way. And depending on their research and where they think there's a high chance of kind of snagging people at different areas, it's not really the intent to snag anybody. I don't think it's just trying to curb behavior at certain areas where they think patterns have developed.
Wow.
Right.
Now, see, as much as I advocate for don't drink and drive, that is the one thing that just bugs the crap out of me about 40 cops shutting down a highway, just letting you kind of roll through.
Well, highways, I've never seen
I
that.
did. I saw one up. It was a
4-lane highway.
It was the Page extension. I saw one night.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, that's a lot of traffic to be pulling over.
Usually they'll put one. Well, I don't know, but the Supreme Court has said if they publicize the plan that it's going to be there on Wednesday night, and they have a plan in place of what they're going to do, and it's previously announced, and everybody kind of is warned about it.
Do they have to do that?
Yes.
They have to announce.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's got to be announced before they do it. The Supreme Court has said that, and they've got to have a plan in place, all that.
Wow.
So wait a minute. So they have to, on some website, they got to go, we'll be at O'Fallon on, Highway K.
Or on a radio show like this. They're supposed to issue, I'm pretty sure, a press release, let the paper and
Is
the media
that
know.
right?
That can't be true because they.
I've seen it in that West magazine before.
It's 100%
little blurbs
They
about
have
where
to
they're
do it.
having
They
them.
may not always do it, but they do.
Can they put a press release out and it just kind of trickles out and they're like, well, now we're legal. And no one's seen it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't have to. They don't have to, make sure that news.
It's not like a commercial, like Weekends Only tonight at 7 o'clock.
But I've never gotten a press release here at the radio station saying that O'Fallon or Wentzville or
there's an app on Facebook or something like that you can go on and says it's like the Checkpoint app
is there?
Yeah, where you can.
They would put it on a wire, and then most people would pick it up. STL Today or CNN or whatever pick it up. Yeah. But that's the first thing we ask for on a checkpoint is from the prosecutor and the police department is, where's your plan? Where's your press release? They do have to do that. And if they don't, it can be fatal to their case.
So is there a place on like the O'Fallon Police Department or the St. Charles that we can go to and just kind of keep monitoring it?
Do it as a public service announcement. We can announce where the checkpoints are going to be for the weekend or for the day. Or
interesting.
the night.
No,
I think we should do that.
Right, and they're very likely their Facebook would have it every time. Wentzville Police has their own Facebook. I'm sure they do it. St. Charles County does too. I bet they all. That's probably the first place they put it out. I do not know, but we usually get it on the back end from them directly to show us what they put out.
I see.
Wow.
We can do a Google search and see if it's indeed out there.
Interesting stuff. A lot of good info. Mike Carter is his name, and the website is didyouBlow.com. That's the easiest way to get you, right?
Yeah,
Did you blow?
895-4040 or didyouBlow.com. We also have DWICenter.com. We got a whole bunch of derivations. Did You Blow is the one where we get the most traffic.
And I do think it means something that because Mike has gone through this himself, he's going to treat these cases as if it's his own, you know? It really does.
Are these all cut and dry cases? Is it, or is everything so different? Because it seems like I drank, I got pulled over, I got a ticket. Do you handle every case exactly the same?
No, I mean, they're all different. In fact, you know, I think as an attorney, you have to kind of check yourself that doesn't even start to enter your mind. Each case has got, 71 moving parts, and you've got to be able to identify the 6 that help you or the 20 that hurt you. And if you don't have the ability to analyze those things and turn them into these individual elements that you can then piece back together and show a jury or a prosecutor or whoever that third-party arbiter is, you need to quit doing your job. You got to be able to identify those moving parts and make the best
Have
case.
you ever got somebody a case like this time of morning? Somebody driving drunk at like 8:30 in the morning?
We had a guy about 4 years ago who got a DWI driving his car at 2 or 3 in the morning, wasted. And then his daughter came, I think, or his wife came and got him about 7 in the morning. They let him go. And then he drove his motorcycle back to his car to get it.
God.
And
damn,
they picked him up. He
Stupid.
still had enough in him. He got another one.
What about this? Here's a legitimate question. Have you ever seen someone that was arrested for DWI, but they were roofied?
No. You talking about like a Mickey?
Yeah.
Somebody slipped them.
So they went in there and they were like, man, I was drinking literally 7-Up, and I got pulled over for a DWI, and the next thing I remember, I was in jail. I was roofied.
Yeah.
No, the closest thing is what you said earlier about if you take Ambien typically or something, you have a beer on accident, you forgot you had it, and then all of a sudden you're acting like a crazy person a half hour later, and you really don't know it, and you didn't intend to even be anywhere near like that.
Great question. What happens? Does the judge go, all right, man, just watch your medication, please?
Well, the prosecutor in that case, that's what I brought up earlier, threatened to say, well, look, your prescription medication says you shouldn't be operating machinery. It's my theory that machinery is a car, and we'll just turn this charge into something we can make.
But that was an accident-ish. I know that you're responsible for yourself, but, you're out there, you're having your Ambien because it's what you're supposed to do at 9 o'clock at night, and you have a beer, and then all of a sudden everything blows up. Have you ever seen the court give leniency, like, look, we're all human, that was dumb, whatever?
That's really an untested flip that the prosecutor has been arguing that they're going to. And I've had another prosecutor say, we would really never push that in front of a jury, that your medicine itself combined with some accidental dosage created an issue for you. But it is threatened, and I know a couple of prosecutors there who would push it forward, no problem. But I haven't seen how a jury or a judge has reacted to that yet.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's good stuff, and didyouBlow.com is the website to find out more, or what's the phone number?
895-4040.
Mike, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's been really pleasurable.
Are you supposed to be in court or something about now?
At 1 o'clock, I got depositions.
Okay.
Can you wear the Star Trek tie into court?
I wonder about that because
I'm serious. We got to get a picture of that before you leave here, man. That is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I wear it. I wonder sometimes if some judges, like in federal court, think it's disrespectful because they're so snooty there. But but I mean, it is. You only have one way to manifest any of your personality when you're wearing a monkey suit.
Let's just grab these last two calls.
You're not supposed to have personality. You're a lawyer, man.
They won't let us. They won't let us let you go, Mike. Everybody wants to talk to you. Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, Mike. My brother used to have one of those blow things in his car.
Right.
Now, can anybody else blow in that car?
Oh, excellent question. Can you have your buddy blowing?
You're not allowed to have anybody blowing it for you. I know that in order to make the car work. Now they've got the GPS tracking on them, and then also it takes a picture of the person typically blowing into it. But if you want to let somebody borrow your car, just take a picture of you and blow in it, get in it, and drive it. I don't think you're going to have an issue. It'll probably cause a hiccup, and you'll have to explain it. But you definitely, the answer is you can do it, you can drive it, but you can't do it for your friend so he can drive it.
Wow. Good morning. It's the Viper. Hello. That?
Good morning.
Hello. You got a question for Mike?
Yes, I do. In 2008, I was convicted of a third drunk driving, which is a felony. All my legal stuff is done, but I was told, because I was on a revocation at the time, I was told by a judge in Michigan that driving is a privilege, not a right, and I have lost that privilege. Does that mean forever? And now that I'm in Missouri, can I apply for a license?
Yeah, I mean, the two state laws interplay. You know, there's the full faith and credit of under the Constitution, where they each have to pay attention to each other's individual laws. But if you're living here in Missouri now, that's really going to be applicable to whether you can get a license here. And usually you're not going to have these lifelong suspensions that you won't at least be able to petition the court. And if you've been behaving yourself for several years, 5 or 10, you can usually convince a judge that, you know, you should be able to get it back, get back into the regular. You've paid your price, and now you need to get back into the driving community and get to work and church and all those things. They don't have to agree that you should have it. And usually people are unable to contain themselves sometimes over that period of time. And if they've had a lot of tickets or any other outside of the bounds of the legal requirements behavior, the judge won't let you have it back. And then when you do get it back, it'll be on a very limited use to church, school, and you have the blower in your machine, car and all that.
Yeah. Good morning. It's the Viper. Hello.
Yeah, I was wanting to ask a question.
Yeah, you got a question from Mike Carter from DidYouBlow.com. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike. Hey, is it against? No, how do I ask this? Is it my constitutional right to travel?
My understanding is yes. I mean, not in the car, not with a car, but you should be able to walk from here to the western coast as freely as you wish.
A buddy of mine was telling me that he's seen a bunch of it on the courts where these guys don't have license and they got the big lawyers and they're driving. They have their insurance and registration, all that. They just don't have a license. Strictly saying it's my constitutional right to travel. And that court has literally thrown out their fines and everything else, saying, okay, yeah, you're right, we don't want to get this any further than what it's just gone, and just dismissed it.
Oh, the mode of travel I don't think is protected, but yeah, you should be able to make your way like Lewis and Clark straight all the way to the edge of California
with a canoe and some sticks.
That's interesting. I've never heard it put like that before.
Yeah, I didn't know that was even.
Yeah.
No, the Mann Act and some other things that were drawn into question back in. Can't remember the boxer who got in trouble for taking a girl across state lines, and there's some ways that they can constrict that if there's some safety issues or reasons to do it. But typically, your right to travel is a protected constitutional right, as I understand it.
There you have it. Good question. Thank you so much. Mike Carter, we do this again? You do some more stuff with us?
Yeah, anytime. Have me back if you got anybody wants to know about DWIs or really any law in the land I know enough to be dangerous about, I guess.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
He's a judge. You know that?
That's right. He was a judge.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, that's right.
So what do you like better? Doing what you're doing now or the judging?
I think that it'd be neat if every lawyer, I think there's 700,000 of us in the United States, which is maybe horrible, but if each one could be a judge, even for a week or maybe 6 sittings, it's really good to, you look at a defendant in a very different way. How do they cock their eyebrows or how do they hold their
I didn't know that. That's a great question. Don't you have to, I thought justice was blind. You almost have to not even look at the defendant sometimes, right? Or because you're making a judgment based on their personality or the way that they look, like you said, a cockeyed.
Right. Well, that's a factor. I mean, that's why they dress up in suits and things when they come into court. But yeah, it's blind, and given that normally it's the facts of the case that come in before the court, and there's certain rules and procedures to keep certain facts out and in, prior arrest, those kinds of things during trial. It's really the facts of that circumstance and whether you're guilty or not of it. But definitely the way that a defendant cocks their head or behaves him or herself in the courtroom is going to be an indicator of how you take their testimony.
It's going to
credibility level.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Do they look like they're lying? Do they look like they're telling the truth? I mean, those things really enter the jury's mind for sure, right?
No doubt.
And the way that you carry yourself. But back to what I was saying, I guess, is that as a judge, you're forced to look at a case in a very different light, because as an attorney, you're arguing, or as a prosecutor, my way is the winning way, right?
Yeah.
But as a judge, you're this referee, basically. I've heard Judge Zayer here in St. Charles County. He's actually a collegiate, high-level referee. And then the judge in Bridgeton is actually an NFL referee, no doubt.
Yeah.
Is he really?
He was my attorney whenever I had my attorney.
And
he's an NFL ref.
Yeah, he's got the rings and everything. It's really
That's cool.
I wish I could remember his name right. LaRue, I think. Judge LaRue and Judge Zay are both high-level football referees, and they'll tell you that, I just keep the rules. You can do this, you can do that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, they help the playing field maintain its equalness for both sides, and then they make the decision ultimately based on who had the most hash marks on each side.
If you knew somebody was a killer, if they were it was a homicide thing, and this guy did it, I know he did it, everybody knows he did it, but the defense lawyer was so good at what he was doing, do you ever kind of give the prosecution a little bit more weight on maybe what's being presented, or because that doesn't sound fair at all?
I think that the jury is a better question for that. They say sometimes, or Robert Frost said, the jury sits in there and votes on who has the best attorney, type of thing. And
that's
that
a
way,
good point.
That way you would be right. But as a judge, you make a decision, actually, as an attorney, you make a decision. Do I want to have this in front of a judge who is more analytical and fact-driven and supposed to be able to parse this out?
Yeah.
Or do I want to ask for a jury where maybe there's some emotional ploys and things that might work a little bit better? So.
Right.
I don't think that if you're dealing with a murderer or whoever it is as a judge, you're swayed one way or the other by necessarily thinking, I already know the conclusion of this. And the judge is supposed to parse this out. 15
I know what they're supposed to do, but we're all human beings, right?
Well, I just find, in my experience with judges, they're pretty good. And most attorneys know that, they're hearing the facts, and it doesn't really matter what their emotional feelings are about the case. They're supposed to, give that person their due day in court.
Right. Yeah. Not letting anything else factor into it, but it does happen.
And I may have misunderstood the question, but you can't know or think to yourself that this guy's a murderer while you're hearing the case. You know what I mean?
Right.
Can't be really allowed.
Yeah, that was the question I had.
Yeah, the judge, you couldn't admit that anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That bias. Mike Carter, digiblow.com, or on the phone
895-4040.
That's it. Thanks. Come back.
All right, I will do. Thank you so much.
Awesome. The Guitar Hero debate continues, and more of our Chris and DC big poll question of the day.
Chris and DC.
It's not the darkness you have to fear. It's what lurks within.
Six Flags Fright Fest, St. Louis' most terrifying haunt with thrills by day, fright by night, and the scariest coasters on the planet in the dark. Save big at sixflags.com or buy a 2015 season pass and get Fright Fest admission free.